Hi, all of you wonderful scuba divers out there. Welcome to the Scuba Diver Magazine podcast, where I break down the latest scuba diving news and just things that have piqued my interest over the previous week. The podcast is sponsored by the scuba diving giant Scuba Pro, who manufacture a wide range of diving equipment for entry-level scuba divers experiencing the underwater world for the first time to advanced technical divers and professional scuba divers as well. I'll talk more about Scuba Pro later on in this podcast. Hi, all of you awesome scuba divers out there. Welcome to the Scuba Diver Magazine podcast. This week, one of Australia's oldest shipwrecks is open for scuba diving again. Thresher sharks have been spotted off the coast of Wales, which is pretty cool. And not just in the water, they're actually jumping out of the water in a very unique photo. A new scuba diving movie is also making headlines, and the death of a killer whale in Miami is making waves. But first off, the Australian state government has announced that it is ditching restrictions on sport divers hoping to explore some shipwrecks. For more than 20 years, Department for Environment and Water, the DEW, required permits to be able to dive within 550 metres of HMAS Hobart, but this protected zone has now been removed. The 133 metre long destroyer, it was originally constructed in Michigan, in America, I believe, and then it was sunk off the coast of Australia in 2000, I believe. It's a relatively new shipwreck, shall we say. 2002, the 5th of November, she was towed from Port Adelaide to Yankeelila Bay and sank upright in fewer than 3 minutes, apparently, through controlled flooding. And she sits at a depth of 30 metres, and the shallowest point reaches about 8 metres from the surface. So perfectly situated and a great scuba dive. The following month, Hobart was declared a historic shipwreck and the protected zone was set up, although a 12-month diving permit was not regarded as difficult for wreck divers to obtain. So it was just, you had to jump through certain hoops to get the right paperwork to be able to go diving on it, but yeah, it's just, okay, you got to get a permit for that. Although scuba diving no longer requires permission, other prohibitions, such as fishing, are maintained within Encounter Marine Park. Obviously, you can't go fishing around there. They say that this is to ensure continued protection of the marine life that calls the shipwreck home, said DEW Marine Park's regional co-coordinator John Emmett of the well-populated attraction. So good news, it just makes it a little bit easier to go scuba diving on a purposefully sunk shipwreck, and yeah, they're still protecting it as such. It's just you don't have to go out of the way to go through all the paperwork and get a specific permit to be able to go scuba diving on it. You can just kind of rock up as and when, but yeah, obviously no fishing. Closer to home here in the UK, a thresher shark has been spotted off the coast of Wales. This isn't the first time that we've seen thresher sharks. They are very, very elusive, even in clear waters, but they have been spotted around British waters previously. But sightseers on a dolphin spotting boat trip in Cardigan Bay got a thrill when a thresher shark, estimated to be around 5 metres long, took to the air in front of them. It properly breached out of the water. Thresher shark, for anyone who doesn't know, is the one with the really, really long tail that they use as a bit of a corral and a bit of a whip as well to catch smaller fish. Guide and photographer Joshua Pedley was on the 1-hour trip out of Newquay in Ceredigion, I'm going to say. Ceredigion. And despite being in shock when the shark suddenly leapt out of the water in front of him, he did manage to zoom his camera into where it splashed down and caught an epic shot when it jumped again 2 more times. So it was obviously hunting something or just having a bit of fun jumping out of the water. But yeah, thresher sharks, they have been spotted in Cardigan Bay before. It's kind of on the north-ish coast of Wales. And there was a sighting last year, but yeah, they're still a pretty rare sighting. They're tough to see, like, in the water. I mean, I've been on dives in, like, Malapascua to specifically see thresher sharks, and yeah, you can kind of see them. at a distance. They don't like to come too close. They like the deeper, colder waters, which is probably why they like the waters around the UK. But yeah, if the visibility isn't great, then you have very little chance of spotting one, especially on open circuit. But it's nice to know that they're about. There's something a bit more exotic around in our waters. So yeah, keep your eyes out. Something else new that's popped up. The first time I saw it was on Reddit, so, the Scuba Reddit, and it's a new movie that's coming out on Friday, I believe, the 25th of August, and it's called The Dive. Now, I half feel like I've seen a trailer for this before, but having actually watched the trailer, it feels kind of different. But yeah, it's called The Dive. It's a new scuba diving movie, and it stars Sophie Lowe from Medieval and Louisa Krause from Billions, with much of the footage, both underwater and on the surface, being shot in the popular diving destination of Malta, though the actual specific location is never actually mentioned. It is just a hypothetical place, obviously. It's directed by Maximilian Erlenwine. The dive focuses on two sisters, Drew and May, whose dive together off the rocky shoreline is abruptly caught short when a landslide above water sends a cascade of boulders down on top of them, leaving one of them trapped underwater at 28 meters by the debris. It's kind of a mixture between what is it? I've got 28 days. No, it's 127 hours where the poor chap gets his arms stuck under a rock. Only that was based on real events. I don't believe this is based on real events. Now, of course, the main part of the story follows a frantic race against time as a remorselessly dropping levels of air and cold temperatures put the trapped diver's life in danger, and the sister goes to increasingly desperate means both above and below the waterline as she fights for her sister's survival. So from what I can tell on the trailer, yeah, they're both wearing full face masks, of course, so that they can talk to one another. You can see plenty of shots of a Shearwater Terric, but it looks like they've removed the Shearwater logo from it for whatever reasons. And yeah, she basically gets her leg. Spoilers for the trailer. She gets her leg trapped under a rock, and then the sister, who doesn't seem to be the competent diver of the two, she seems relatively new to the sport. She has to go back up and get more cylinders, try and bring them back down. I don't know how they managed to swap over the cylinders underwater whilst in full face masks. I don't know whether they swapped them over or whatever. But yeah, they're in the middle of nowhere, and it's that sort of prime thing of just kind of like, right, just make sure that everyone knows like where you're diving, and make sure that you have like an accident or an incident slate so that you can know exactly who to call just in case anything happens. You're covered, and you can call emergency services to come and help you, because time is of the essence. Our editor Mark Evans actually got to see an early screening of the film, and his review was, "I'll be the first to admit my heart always sinks when I see the release of a new quote diving movie, as inevitably they will involve some lousy CGI sharks, an improbable storyline, and totally unbelievable diving situations. Think 47 meters down and the like." So it was more than a little refreshing to find that The Dive has none of this. It's pretty much a two-hander between the two female leads, with the camera firmly focused on them and their complex personal relationship, and then the perilous scenario to find themselves in underwater when a routine dive goes horribly wrong. Some of the topside and underwater set pieces are a little formulaic, and the source of the pre-dive tension between the sisters ends up being a bit lame once you get to the bottom of it, but overall I enjoyed The Dive. Malta's distinct scenery is nicely showcased, there are some genuinely taut moments, and while I'd already worked out a few elements leading to the dramatic ending, a MacGyver-esque use of non-diving equipment made me smile. This is not a shiny, all singing, all dancing, big budget Hollywood underwater thriller in the mould of Into the Blue, for instance. This is very much a low budget indie production, but it is awesome to have a diving movie that is trying something different rather than the tired, hackneyed plots of most of the Regent garbage to sully my eyeballs. It isn't all new though. It seems to be a remake of 2020's Swedish thriller Breaking Surface, which again revolved around two sisters with a strained relationship, one trapped by a rockfall underwater and the other struggling to rescue her, even down to some of the particular set pieces. That's probably why I felt like I'd seen the trailer before. Apparently none of the dives underwater sequences involved CGI. That's quite nice to see. And neither of the two leads had any previous diving experience. That's impressive to sign up for an acting role, and both roles take a lot of time underwater. He goes on to say they actually look very relaxed and confident when they're diving, and it's nice to see some decent equipment being used. I'm one of those sad people who look at the gear on any divers in the movies. I do it as well. I think as soon as you become like part of the diving industry, or even just a passionate diver, you end up looking at other divers' equipment and just going, what are they wearing? Mark says, hats off to Louisa and especially Sophie, who managed to convey emotion, panic, fear, desperation, and elation when in a very limiting environment. Even with their Steve Batchel-like full-face mask allowing them to speak to one another, with most of the shots being dark and underwater, they had to go above and beyond to keep your attention firmly rooted on their dire situation, and they did a sterling job indeed. Yes, we all know there will be those divers out there who will leap on some of the more fanciful diving situations, but in the end of the day, this is a movie, it's not a factual documentary, so give the director and his two leading ladies a break, set aside your disbelief and just chuck into your popcorn and enjoy the dive for what it is. So that's being released on Friday the 25th. Yeah, I know what he means by the Steve Batchel full face masks, because on I think every single full face mask that I've ever worn, you have this separate pocket that covers up your nose and your mouth, and you don't have these little lights on the inside that illuminate your face, because there's no real need to have just lights shining in your face. But with these ones, it's the big front pane of glass, so you can see pretty much the entire actor's face. And it's obviously for the movie, but if you're interested, I'll put a link. There's going to be links all down in the description below. But a new scuba diving movie out there. I'll be interested to see it as soon as I can get my hands on a copy. This week also saw the loss of a killer whale at Miami's Seaquarium. The death in the United States of Lolita, the killer whale that at 57 had become the longest lived in captivity, has provided an opportunity for animal rights campaigners to remind the public of the consequences of continuing to support marine mammal performances. The orca's death comes shortly after the first set of standards for retired marine mammal sanctuaries was announced. She died as she lived after spending more than 5 decades imprisoned by the Miami Seaquarium in the smallest, bleakest orca tank in the world, deprived of any semblance of a natural life, says US-based charity PETA. When it opened in 1955, Miami Seaquarium in Florida was the world's biggest marine life attraction. Aged just 4 years old, Lolita was one of a number of killer whales taken from the wild in 1970 and sent to SeaWorld parks. And she lived at Miami Seaquarium without any other orcas for company from 1980. So it's quite a sad story. Through popular demand, the practice of keeping killer whales, dolphins, and other marine mammals in tanks for public entertainment is slowly winding up in many parts of the world, with coastal sanctuaries being established so that ex-performers can be retired there. Unlike such facilities for circus land animals, however, no standards have been set for cetacean sanctuaries, but now the first guide to best practices has been published by US-based charity, the Global Federation of Animal Sanctuaries, or GFAS, AUS. And Executive Director Valerie Taylor says these guidelines were established through the combined efforts of top cetacean experts. They signal a defining moment for the future of captive cetaceans across the globe. GFAS says that it's the only global recognized body providing standards for identifying legitimate animal sanctuaries. Its guidelines have been produced through a collaboration with the Sea Life Trust and Whale Sanctuary Project charities, Merlin Entertainments, and the US National Aquarium. So hopefully there might be a more happy ending for other killer whales who are still in these kind of SeaWorld environments. But yeah, of course, animal rights activists are all sort of placarding outside of Miami Seaquarium, basically with signs saying that she deserved to be free. Captivity killed Lolita. Yeah, it's an awful environment for them to just live in. There's also a lot of calls that she and a lot of the dolphins weren't being fed properly as well. I don't know how accurate those accusations are, but hey, it just brings that story back to the headlines, and yeah, hopefully some change can be made for the future. So, as I mentioned at the start of the podcast, I'm going to talk briefly about Scuba Pro. Scuba Pro was founded in 1963 by Gustav Dallevale and Dick Bonin, and in 2023, they see their 60th anniversary, and Scuba Pro is stronger than ever. Today, Scuba Pro is a global brand, and you'll find them around any dive site or dive boat because scuba divers around the world just trust Scuba Pro as a brand. I personally have never had a problem recommending any Scuba Pro dive equipment to anyone asking. I used it whilst I was scuba diving and teaching, and so did all of my students as well. They were using Scuba Pro equipment, and no matter where you are in the world, it won't be hard to find a service center because they're located all over the world. The divers are Scuba Pro's inspiration. Every product, every enhancement, every decision, everything that they do is designed to make your diving experience the best that it can be. Because without this blue planet of divers eager to explore, their innovations mean nothing. And Scuba Pro want to thank you for being part of their journey and for being their inspiration for the future. They are so excited to share their latest innovations with you. The best is yet to come. A few big things this year have been the Ulex range of wetsuits that use a plant-based foam instead of neoprene, which is better for the planet, and the S-Tech fins, which are a more technical focused fin, a bit of a hybrid between the Seawing Nova and the Jet fin. One really cool feature is that you can actually adjust their buoyancy by adding or removing little metal plates in the fin before the dive. But for more information, head over to scubapro.com. Looking at dive equipment, new stuff, there were two new announcements from Santi. Santi has the Kango, which is a new undersuit, and they also have, I think they just called it the crew poncho. So the Kango is a new undersuit, and I think it was the Dive Poets who pointed out that they're like not, I wouldn't say copying, but it's hard to see the differences between the Kango and the Halo AR. But the main similarity really is in that front zipper. Instead of being straight down the chest like you typically see on most undersuits or even diagonally across the chest, this one goes like around the circumference of your chest, if that makes sense. It starts off on your collarbone, and then it goes down around your pectoral, and then straight down your rib cage to one side. So you get this big panel on the front instead of a zipper straight down the front. Something else new, they call it an anorak pocket on the chest. So you get this chest-mounted pocket for anything essential. There's also another one on your side, as well as traditional like waist pockets, and there's also one on your backside. So plenty of storage places. This is very useful when you're on the surface. Obviously, you take the top half of your dry suit off, that dangles down, but then you need to like get your car keys and your wallet and bits of paper and stuff. It is helpful to have those storage areas, and yeah, it looks like a decent all-in-one undersuit. It's made of Polartec material, which you tend to see on a lot of dry suits. 536 grams, so good warmth and flexibility. They say it's made with the highest density Polartec stretch fleece, designed to provide the desired level of warmth, maximum flexibility and comfort. This suit is an ideal companion for exploring cold and moderate water depths for shorter and recreational dives. So it's your like autumn, spring kind of suit, where the like BZ400 is probably a bit warmer still. This one's a little bit lighter, but not as light as their Flex 190. But yeah, it looks like a decent suit. Well constructed. Santi stuff is always is well constructed and highly regarded. So yeah, I'd like to get my hands on one, see just how warm it is. Not quite yet, because it's we're still going through a touch of a heat wave where I am, and gosh, it was hot yesterday, and I'm doing that sealed dry suit. So yeah, having to wear a dry suit is pretty tough in this heat, but I'm managing. And then you get all the studio lights as well that just increase the heat. But anyway, the second one is a poncho. Again, the dive poet sort of said, oh yeah, obviously Fourth Element make a poncho, Santi make a poncho, Fourth Element make this undersuit with this particular zip, and then Santi make it. It's not. It's like saying, oh, your car looks like a Maserati. It's hardly a bad thing to emulate. But yeah, another poncho. We're seeing more and more ponchos for scuba diving, and it makes sense. They do make your life so much more comfortable on the boat or on the shore after you're getting changed, especially out of a wetsuit. Less so on a dry suit. I don't think I've ever used a poncho getting out of my dry suit. It feels a bit superfluous. All you have to do is just dry your hair and you're pretty well done, unless it's raining, in which case you just stay inside of your dry suit. But yeah, poncho crew, it's traditional like Santi black, and not too much detailing. I've got one of their what was it, Eagle Expedition jackets, and you do feel like you got Santi kind of printed on you quite a lot, but this one's quite reserved. You've got little Santi just on the front of your neck. You've got the Santi badge on your left bicep, and then on the back it just has in like muted black, more than diving, which yeah, it's not that intrusive, but traditional poncho. If you have a look at the it looks a lot like the Fourth Element Storm poncho in black. You've got the little pockets on the front, poppered lower section, big sleeves as well, and yeah, it's just something to throw on when you're setting up your dive kit or between dives, just to protect yourself from the elements, so that you're decompressing properly and you're a bit more comfortable. Large kangaroo type front pocket fastened on both sides with press studs, side front zipper, wide sleeves, adjustable Velcro, waterproofness 5,000 millimeter WP. Sean would be better to say whether that's very good or average, but yeah, it's waterproof, so if you get some rain on you, you're going to stay dry on the inside. As far as things that I've been working on, yeah, the Seal SL01 dry suit, I've been playing about with that. Nice dry suit. It's not the cheapest dry suit out there, but when you look at all of the little features and the construction, really, really nice. I think I say in my review there's definitely going to be one on my Christmas list. I'm kind of looking at my dry suit and kind of praying it develops a leak, just so I can justify buying one myself. Only comes in black, which may limit it a little bit, but because Seal, as far as I'm aware, Seal is basically a sister company to X Deep. With all of their project and their Zen and whatnot, you can get different coloured materials of that. But you'd only get that on the shoulders. I don't know. I imagine they're working on different colours if it proves popular. Basically, because every single suit is made to measure. They don't do like standard small, medium, and large like most manufacturers sort of make. They're all custom fit to every diver. It wouldn't be that far outside of their wheelhouse to be able to make them like custom colour like a lot of Santi dry suits do. When I say custom, you can get like 5 different colours, whereas the X Deep wings and whatnot, you can get plenty of different colours of that. But right now it's just black. Otherwise, yeah, I was working on diving in the Philippines, a guide with aggressor liverboards. It's been a few years since I've been diving in the Philippines, but yeah, if you are interested, I released a video on Wednesday about that. This Saturday, we've got that top 10 odd things that scuba divers say being released. Next weekend, I think, is going to be about gauge mode on dive computers. I was writing those a couple of weeks ago. I've only just got around to editing them. And we've had a few interesting Ask Mark questions. I think I'm going to stick to at least 2 of those a week just to catch up on some of them, because my questions are getting backlogged, and I might cut some of the less interesting questions, shall we say. Previously, I've been doing every single question, but some of them it's quite hard to spend any great amount of time answering those questions. So I'm kind of sticking to the more interesting ones, shall we say. But still, I'm going to release them as like twice a week so that you do get some content, and I'm also removing that intro jingle. It seemed to annoy people, so I was like, okay, fine. It just cuts off 5 seconds, and it does seem a little bit old-fashioned to have an intro jingle. That's just something that we always used to do, and it's quite fun making them. But hey, if it bugs divers, then fine, they are gone. Other than that, that's about it. Yesterday, I received a new phone case. It's an underwater like phone case so that you can use your camera phone underwater. It's been on test with some of the editors. They've been playing about with it. I'm going to do an unboxing video and a general review. And this seems to be quite, or more frequently common. We're seeing more and more of these like underwater cases where you can take your phone underwater. So I think, yeah, we're probably going to see more. And it kind of makes sense because cameras on phones today are pretty darn good. And it's something that most divers have with them. It's just a matter of, yeah, finding a case that suits your actual phone, because the buttons are all in different locations. Obviously, you can't use the touch screen when you're underwater, and also just making sure that you still have like battery, and obviously that seal is intact, because can you imagine taking your phone on a dive and you see that little like water level slowly rise because there's like a grain of sand or a hair in that O-ring seal. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to be playing about with that and releasing a video of that in the upcoming weeks. Yeah, stay tuned for that seal SL01. I know a lot of people have been quite keen to see that. I'm editing it at the moment, just getting all the close-up shots so you can get a good look and feel for the suit. But as a little sneak peek, yeah, I like it. I don't know when I'm going to release it. I think it just depends on how long it takes me to edit it, along with everything else that I need to be done. But anyway, that is it for another week. Thank you for listening, everybody. I hope you all have a wonderful week ahead of you. Thank you for listening, and of course, safe diving.